It's quite common for people who have worked hard to achieve success in different fields to become aloof and distant when they finally reach the top. It's been said that success does not change you, it merely makes you more of what you already are. For some people, their vanity gets out of control. The seventh quality of human nature that is inevitable and unavoidable is that of ignorance. No matter how smart or well-educated you are, it is impossible for you to know everything there is to know about anything. For example, you could be the most brilliant, experienced, and best-educated financial advisor on Wall Street. Yet, within 24 hours, thousands of the facts and figures reflected in stock prices and market activities will change. You will have to work full-time simply to keep abreast. You will never know everything. This is true in any field. Sometimes I ask my audiences, is there anyone here who is a know-it-all? Of course, no one raises their hand. It is not a compliment to be called a know-it-all. But there's another reason. Everyone knows that it is impossible to know everything about anything. We live in an uncertain world. Every action implies uncertainty or risk of some kind, even crossing an empty street. There are no guarantees that any act will achieve its aim because it is impossible to have perfect information in any area. The facts are constantly changing. Today, a doctor can specialize in a particular area of medicine and study in that field for decades and still not know all there is to know or that is being discovered in his specialty. No lawyer knows all there is to know about his legal area of specialization. No businessman knows everything about his market, competitors, and customers. There is no such thing as perfect knowledge. The amount that you know about anything is tiny compared to the vast amount that you do not know. For this reason, no matter how intelligent or educated they are, everyone is ignorant to some degree. Because you are ignorant, which is neither good nor bad, every choice you make is a best guess among alternatives. According to the experts, your decisions will be wrong or partially wrong fully 70% of the time or more. Your life will be a continual series of mistakes and errors. Everything you do will be subject to the rule of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You will make progress and regress. You will succeed and fail. You will be up and down. You will have moments of triumph and moments of defeat. You will make good decisions and you will make bad decisions. You will be right and wrong continually. This process goes on all your life. Over time, if you continually learn and upgrade your levels of knowledge and skill, continually have experiences and learn from them, continually focus and specialize in a few key areas, you will make fewer mistakes than you did at the beginning. But because you are inherently ignorant, because there are always countless factors that you do not know or do not account for, you will always be taking risks and making mistakes. Now, the quality of ignorance is neither good nor bad. The smartest people of all are those who are overwhelmed with how little they know. The dumbest people in our society are the ones who are convinced that they're smarter than anyone else. The more you are impressed with your own ignorance, the more likely it is that you will remain open to new ideas and information that can help you to make better choices and decisions. When your perception of your own personal ignorance drives you to continually improve and upgrade your knowledge and skills so that you can get better at doing the things that are important to you, both at work and at home, then ignorance is a positive quality that is helpful and life-enhancing. If your ignorance blinds you to reality or causes you to be incapable of making good decisions, then it becomes a negative and hurtful quality. The worst manifestation of ignorance is when a person makes mistakes but is too vain to admit them. This is why your willingness to admit that you could be wrong, even when you feel strongly about your point of view, is the mark of the superior intellect. The very fact that you are open to the possibility that your information may not be complete enables you to think better and more effectively in that situation. This brings us to the blinding flash of the obvious that came to me many years ago. It was the realization that everyone is lazy, greedy, ambitious, selfish, vain, impatient, and ignorant, only for different things and in different ways. These qualities are as normal and as natural as breathing in and breathing out. They are permanently hardwired and programmed into the mental and motivational structure of every individual. These qualities cannot be permanently altered or eradicated. They can only be modified, channeled, and directed by creating incentives that encourage their expression in positive and helpful ways. They are what compose human nature, and every attempt to create a system, institution, or government in opposition to these qualities leads only to frustration, suppression, oppression, or tyranny. This combination of qualities can be summarized in what I call the expediency factor. This says that people continually strive to get the things they want the fastest and easiest way possible, with little or no concern for the secondary consequences of their behaviors. When I've explained this expediency factor, or E factor, step by step to individuals or audiences, I've experienced various reactions. Most people smile, nod, and agree. They recognize that this explanation makes sense. Others, however, disagree, sometimes angrily. Occasionally they shout and swear. Some burst into tears. Others actually stand up and stomp out of the room. But, as Ronald Reagan once said, facts are stubborn things. Or, as Winston Churchill said, the truth. You can twist it, turn it, and bend it out of shape, but at the end of the day, there it is. The E factor is the unified field theory of human behavior for which learned people have sought for centuries. If the E factor is the driving force of all of human activity, and what people want, especially in material or financial terms, is to get the very most, the fastest and easiest way possible with little concern for secondary consequences, this means that there's a natural human drive to get more and more for less and less. And the very least that you can pay for something that you want is zero. The ultimate goal of most people, therefore, is to get something for nothing. In physics, the law of least resistance is accepted as an unarguable explanation of natural phenomena. In human nature, it is unarguable as well. People follow the path of least resistance to get more of what they want the fastest and easiest way possible. And the very least that a person can possibly give or pay is nothing. Human nature is like water, which continually flows downhill by the law of gravity. Human nature, in the absence of personal restraint, flows downhill as well. Like water, it goes through every hole and crevice. It constantly seeks the lowest common denominator, the lowest price in terms of money or effort, to get the things it wants. The most desirable goal in human nature is to get something for nothing. This is the highest possible achievement. The very thought of getting something for nothing motivates and drives people to behave in ways that are otherwise unexplainable. Sometimes, the idea of getting something for nothing makes people crazy. As an example of how quickly ordinary people respond to the chance of getting something for nothing, you could go and stand in the middle of a downtown plaza where the businessmen and businesswomen are walking, talking, and passing through. Reach into your pocket, pull out a handful of $100 bills, and throw them in the air. Within seconds, the plaza will turn into a madhouse. Like piranhas descending on a bleeding animal in the Amazon River, people will come running, screaming, pushing, punching, and kicking from all directions to grasp at the fluttering $1 bills. The desire to get something for nothing has run amok in our society. As I wrote in the introduction, it is the great cancer that is metastasizing and spreading to every area of social life, business, and government. It is the driving force behind most public policy, programs, and activities. It is the galvanizing force behind every demonstration and protest march. It is the organizing principle behind much of modern politics. The desire to get something for nothing is threatening to tear our society apart. In his book, The Magus, the author John Fowles ends with this penetrating quote from T.S. Eliot's poem Little Gidding. He says, "And the end of all our searching will be to return to the place where we began and to recognize it for the first time." By applying the E factor to the world around you, you recognize the way the world works, sometimes for the first time. Now, don't accept this principle on faith. Think for yourself. There's a simple way for you to determine the truth of this or any statement or claim about human action or behavior. It is simply for you to ask yourself, is it true for me? When you hold up this question and contrast it against any claim that is made in your personal life or in the world around you, is it true for me? You will immediately have a tool to determine whether or not it is valid for others. It's amazing how many people recommend and espouse policies, programs, and activities for other people that they would never dream of engaging in themselves. They think that these wonderful sounding ideas would be good for others, even though they know that it would be unacceptable to themselves. Some people will argue with this explanation of human nature and accuse me of being too harsh in my assessment. They will say that I am using sweeping generalities to pass a negative judgment on mankind. They will suggest that there are many examples of people who engage in behaviors that are not lazy, greedy, selfish, ambitious, vain, ignorant, and impatient. None of this argument changes the facts. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Things fall down rather than up. People are expedient, automatically, instinctively, reflexively. Even the person who commits suicide or loses his life attempting to save the life of another is acting expediently. In retrospect, his behavior may not be rational or acceptable to someone else, but at the moment of acting, based on his personal worldview and judgment, that was what he felt was the best thing to do at the time. We'll talk about this a little bit more later in this book. Here's an important point. The greatest gift that you can give another, especially a child or a spouse, is the gift of unconditional love. You love a person unconditionally to the degree to which you totally accept him or her, with his or her strengths or weaknesses, without criticizing, condemning, or complaining, or demanding that they change and be something that they are not. The key to building high self-esteem in children is to lavish them with unconditional love as they grow up and throughout their lives. This doesn't mean that you don't disagree with them or have arguments with them at times, but it does mean that you never question their value or attack them as a person. You may disagree with a particular behavior, but your love is total and unconditional at all times, without exception. By the same token, if you really care about other people, if you are a genuinely warm, compassionate, and loving human being, then you accept other people the way they are. You do not expect them to change or demand that they be other than what nature has made them to be. If you really care about others, you simply accept that they will behave expediently in everything they do. You will accept that everyone else, just like yourself, is lazy, greedy, ambitious, selfish, vain, ignorant, and impatient. You will not expect them to act differently, but will instead alter your own behaviors accordingly. As parents, you do not expect your young children to act other than expediently. You don't become angry or upset about this. Instead, you organize your children's lives in such a way that their natural tendencies toward expedient behavior are channeled and directed into positive and constructive activities. This is a large part of the responsibility of parenting right into the late teens. Let me recap this chapter by saying once more that people are lazy, greedy, ambitious, selfish, vain, ignorant, and impatient. They are expedient in their behaviors. They seek the path of least resistance. They strive continually to get the things they want the fastest and easiest way possible, with little concern for the long-term consequences of their behaviors. Above all, they want something for nothing, or for as little effort or expense as they can get away with whenever possible.
Radio, television, newspaper, books, papers, magazines, everything that you allow to influence your thinking affects your subconscious mind, affects your attitudes, your expectations, your values, your beliefs, and ultimately your potential as a human being. In fact, the great difference between human beings is not intelligence and not education and not opportunity. It is what they are feeding into their minds on a regular basis. Now, we also said, and it's the same thing, if you were to say, well, yes, I eat good food a lot of the time, but some of the time, or 50% of the time, I eat junk food. I eat food that's high in salt, high in sugar, low in nutrition, inert foods, dead foods, white flour, French fries, grease, and so on. But it doesn't bother me, it doesn't have any effect on my body. You would know that that is nonsense because everything counts. Everything counts. One of the marks of a truly honest person is that they accept reality, and reality is that everything that you do, mentally or physically, counts. And it's either positive, it's either helping you, moving you toward what you want to be and have and do, or it's negative, it's moving you away, but nothing is neutral. Everything counts. So with regard to the power of suggestion, let's go on and talk about how we complete this process of reprogramming ourselves so that inside we are totally successful human beings, so that outside we will be totally positive, enthusiastic, successful human beings. Feed your mind the same way you would feed your body. Feed your mind carefully. If you were concerned about physical health and longevity, you would measure and calculate and look into the foods you eat. Look carefully into the mental foods that you eat too. Because these mental foods, by a process that we call the law of accumulation. Now, the law of accumulation is both a mental law as well as a physical law, and what it says is that every single thing that you do, positive or negative, accumulates. That every single great achievement in life is the result of thousands of ordinary achievements. From time management to nuclear physics, 1 hour per day will make you an authority. 3 to 5 years will make you an expert, and 5 to 7 years will make you an international authority, make you one of the most knowledgeable people in that field in the world, in just 1 hour a day in any subject. And you can pick anything from medicine to molecular biology. So read an hour per day. Recent study shows that the average adult in North America reads less than 1 book a year. That 58% of adults in the United States and Canada never finish a non-fiction book after they leave high school. When they leave high school, you know what they say? Or they leave university, they say, "Thank heavens this is over. I'll never read another book as long as I live." And they can't understand why they stop growing. But it's only reading that causes your mind to stretch and grow. Conversation is good. Listening is good. Courses and classes are good. Watching videotape instruction is good, of course. But only reading can work it out. Now let me ask you a very simple question. Do you think that if you read 1 book a week for the next 10 years, in a world where the average person reads less than 1 book a year, do you think that would give you the edge? Do you think that would affect your life in any way? Do you think that would change your career and your income? Do you think it would change your environment? Do you think it would change everything that goes on around you? You bet your bippy it would, because by the power of suggestion, by feeding your mind with new information, 500 books in 10 years will transform your life in such a way that you will never be able to recognize it. Right, the next thing with regard to feeding your mind is listen to tapes. The discovery of audio cassette learning has been considered the greatest single advance in education since the discovery of the printing press, or the invention of the printing press. Audio cassette learning brings the finest minds in the world with their finest thoughts thought out, scripted, edited, tightly compressed and put together into your hands for a few dollars a tape, and you can walk. Just don't listen to so much radio. I'm not saying don't listen to the radio at all, but just don't listen to so much of it. Where do you get time to take additional courses? Instead of sitting around on the weekends, take a course. Instead of watching television in the evenings, go and take a course. But remember, the clock is running. If you want to get to the top of your field, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a star in your field, knowledge is power. Knowledge today is more important than anything else. Knowledge is the great power in our society, and the more knowledge you have, the more practical knowledge that can be put to purposes that can help other people and benefit yourself and the people around you, the more knowledge you have, the more power you will have, the more self-esteem you will have, the more status, the more position, the more security, everything. The most insecure person in our society is the person who has stopped learning and growing, and they know it. All right. By the way, one other thing. According to the Harvard studies, one of the keys to self-motivation is perpetual growth. As long as you're growing and learning and feeding your mind with new material, you will be continuously motivated, exactly as if you were taking psychological vitamins. As soon as you stop growing, you start stagnating. When you start stagnating, your self-esteem goes down, your energy level goes down, your health level goes down, you become prone to more diseases, and so on and so forth. So as long as you're learning and growing, you'll be vital physically and mentally. The next part of feeding your mind is what we call the reference group. Or put it another way, get around the right people. Get around the right people. Now, getting around the right people simply means this. is that when we talked about the power of suggestion, we said that about 85 to 95% of all of the influences in your life, all the reasons you do anything, is because of suggestive influences around you. Not only physical suggestions, the weather, the heat, the cold, and so on, but also the emotional suggestions, the impact of the people you associate with. And the more you associate with people, especially people in your family, people in your close social circle, people that you work with, the more you associate with these people, the more of an impact they have on your thinking and on your future. David McClellan found at Harvard University, after 25 years, he found that the choice of a reference group was one of the key determinants of success or failure in life. Now, a reference group are the people that you identify with. Remember we talked about identification? The people that you consider yourself to be one of. It's as simple as that. Who do you identify with? Well, let me give you an example. I was reading the story of a self-made millionaire not long ago, and he had started off as a young man when other kids were collecting baseball cards or football cards or hockey cards. He became fascinated with executives of Fortune 500 corporations. So he began reading his father's Business Week, Newsweek, Fortune magazine, Wall Street Journal, and he began keeping files on executives who were in the news. And he began to identify with those executives. He began to think about being in a Fortune 500 corporation, and he began to think about being an executive in a Fortune 500 corporation at a time when some people were thinking about being hockey stars or baseball stars. The interesting thing was that as he grew up, this directional mechanism, this role model, this reference group that he identified with began to affect what he read in school, what he studied, how much he applied himself, how hard he worked, what companies he went to work with, what company he went to work with when he came out of high school and university. And by the time he was 25 years old, he was an executive of a Fortune 500 corporation, one of the youngest executives of a Fortune 500 corporation in business history, but it's because he started at the age of 12 identifying with those. Question, who do you identify with? Now, whoever you identify with today, one of the things you have to ask yourself is, who would you like to be like? Who do you want to identify with? And then you start getting around the right people. The starting point of getting around the right people is to start to read the magazines that they read. If you want to be a successful person in business, read successful business magazines. If you want to be a top salesperson, read successful sales magazines, marketing magazines, books written by top salespeople. If you want to be a successful executive, if you want to be a successful marketer, if you want to be a successful parent, then begin getting around these people through their writings, through their tapes, and through their courses. The other thing is to program into your subconscious computer is, I feel terrific. 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 What you do is you get up and you say it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and you repeat it over. I feel terrific. I feel terrific. You don't get up in the morning and say, geez, I'm tired. Geez, I'm tired. Geez, I'm tired. Oh, God, I'm tired. You get up in the morning and say, I feel terrific. Somebody says, how you feel? You say, I feel terrific. Even when you feel terrible, say, I feel terrific. You see, your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between a real fact and one that you vividly imagine. And if you repeat, I feel terrific, very loud, I feel terrific, try it yourself. I feel terrific, I feel terrific, I feel terrific. What happens is the subconscious mind believes that maybe you do feel terrific, and it will actually give you a surge of energy that will wake you up and clear your mind even before you have coffee. Now, the second thing that you do in the morning, this is number one. Second thing that you do to start your day off well is to read for 30 to 60 minutes. Get up early enough to read for 30 to 60 minutes in something that is motivational, something that is inspirational, something that is educational, something that uplifts your mind. What we call mentally will go better. And the third step is review your goals every morning. Review your goals every morning. Every morning before you start out, review your goals. Just the same as if you were on a long motor trip, or if you were at sea, you'd look at the map. You'd shoot the stars and the moon. In other words, you'd take a look at where you are and you would plot your destination, and you would think about it, because when you review your goals, you program them into your subconscious mind. Well, programming them into your subconscious mind by repeating them every day and using that wonderful technique, that golden hour. I learned this many years ago, and I've been absolutely astonished. Those 3 points: wake up in the morning and say, I feel terrific. Read for 30 to 60 minutes, and write and review your goals every single morning. And the most remarkable thing that happens is you start off every day supercharged. You start off every day feeling positive. You start off every day feeling energetic. So let's just review for a second, and I'm going to wrap up with 2 really critical points. We talked about the power of suggestion. Remember that everything counts. And everything that I talked about here when I first began teaching, I hoped it worked. I thought it worked, I sort of believed it worked, but now I know it works. Having taught it, I've internalized it. Having internalized it, I have seen examples of every single bit of this. Back everything that you do with confident expectations. An attitude of confident expectations is the mark of the truly healthy personality. Remember we talked about the power of expectations? An attitude of confident expectations means that you confidently expect good things to happen. You have an attitude of positive self-expectancy. You become what W. Clement Stone calls an inverse paranoid. An inverse paranoid, as you know, a paranoid is a person who is convinced that the world is out to get him, that the whole world is conspiring to get him. An inverse paranoid is a person who is convinced that the world is conspiring to do him or her good. So become an inverse paranoid. Be absolutely convinced that the world has got a plot out there. It's plotting to do you good. It grows and grows and grows, and eventually it gets to the point where you absolutely believe that you earn $50,000 a year. And if somebody were to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and give you a check and say, how much do you earn? You say $50,000 a year, even though still at this point you've never earned more than $27,000 in your whole life. Now this is the way all our beliefs change. We start off with where we are now. We look at where we want to be in the future, and we begin to feed our mind with new mental food consistent with where we want to be. As we feed our mind with that new mental food, we start off with a lot of disbelief and skepticism. As a matter of fact, your skepticism and disbelief is the biggest obstacle to your success. But as we repeat it over and over again, as we continue to work on ourselves and to work on the situation, we begin to believe more and more that it's possible. We begin to impress the possibility of it deeper and deeper into the subconscious. Now, in propaganda, this is called the big lie. The big lie theory was the discovery that if you repeated anything over and over again often enough, that even the most intelligent person would come to believe it. With regard to your life and to my life, this is called the big truth. The big truth is that you can be, have, and do anything that you want if you want it badly enough and are willing to make the effort. That anything that you can hold in your mind on a continuing basis, you can be, have, or do. You will become what you think about. Your only job is to make a very, very clear decision about the person you want to be, the things that you want to have, the goals that you want to accomplish, and then make sure that you feed your mind continuously, day by day, week by week, hour by hour, with words, pictures, images, ideas, thoughts, and information consistent with your goals and your ideals. Keep your mind on what you want, keep it off of what you don't want, and everything is possible for you.